What is the most important things in a storage? So we have to see that first. Okay, storage. Storage means, so I open a PPT, right? Is it opening or not? I said I open this PPT. Okay, we'll see. Okay, guys, what is storage means? Store the data in some place, right? So we have to store. What is storage? Store the data. So whatever the data it is, store the data in some place. Storing the data. Storage means storing a data. So storing the data. So where we store, anywhere, maybe disk, maybe pen drive, maybe Google Drive, maybe external hard disk. Okay, maybe remote PCs. We have to store the data in some place, right? Either in your PC or maybe in other device you will store it. So this is how many type of storage things are there. How many types of storages are there? Devices. Okay? Devices of a storages are there. So what are the different devices we use to store the data, and how you store the data? How you store the data? Okay, how you store the data in that one? Okay, and what type of device having what? One second. Full disturbance. People think working or it's a war. Okay, okay, guys. So storing a device, storage devices. So where we store the devices, where we store. Okay, storage devices to discuss about where we put our data. Storage means storing the data, but where we put the data, what type of device it is, what is the advantage of that devices it is, and that. And formats, file system formats. Another important is file system, file system formats, file system formats. So what different type of formats are there? What are the advantages of using that systems? Okay, uh, like that. So so what are there? So we'll see that one. So anything next. When you store, storing the data, but you want to secure the data by using backup, right? So backup. How to back up the data means backup data also based on your data you're storing in some different location, right? So it has some different location. If in case you've lost your data, then you can able to take it from the your backup location. So that is also locations, devices, formats, and other. But what are the different type of backups? Which one is a better one, or where we can put a backup okay, like that, so we can able to see. So what are the types of backups? Okay, devices use to where we store the backup, where we store the backup, again storage concept will come up. Okay, where we store the backup, okay, advantages of backup and all kind of stuff, we'll discuss it. Okay, so storage and backup. So today we'll see maximum of storages. So if you want to see the practical, so what we can able to do in a practical things like ride. So that's why I keep server like that only. Ride in Linux, LVM. Ride I will show software ride that is in Windows Server. LVM. This is a storage practicals. LVM. If you want, you can use HTTP, FTP in a Linux also for storing remotely. NFS, AFS. Okay, and also iSCSI. Okay, iSCSI, the iSCSI, how we can able to share the disk. Okay, also we can do the practical part here. We can do, but how much we can able to do, it depends upon the time limits also there, right? So RIDE, LVM, HTTP, FTP, NFS, AFS, iSCSI, and backups. Okay, when you take a backup, how to take a backup types also there. Okay. Mm, I will explain what is a backup types in a 2003 server. 2003 server. We need a 2003 server for this practical. Just for a view and understand is enough for that one. And in Windows 10 also, just you can take any Windows 10 PC. We can practice a backup also here. Windows 10 for a backup. And our system also, how many type of backups are there? Okay, if you possible like how to do tar files. Okay, compressing like bz to gz. Okay, these are the compression in a Linux. Then how to do combine with storing in different locations. Okay, different type of backups are there in a thing. Normal data backup in a here data backup is there. Entire system backup is there, like that we so it needed time actually. There literally not much easy. See, if you see this is today, how much trouble we got it from here to here. That's very simple practical it is. Installation done, everything is done. Suddenly system becomes slow. So like that, non-cooperation times. Sometimes practical we do mistakes while you do practical, right? So like that it will happens. Guys, my suggestion is as much as I try to complete in a given time. Okay, so my plan is to complete today and tomorrow. I will complete this storage today and tomorrow. I will complete the storage. Okay, Monday will go with a fresh topic. Okay, if in case if I don't have a time, then I will skip some of the practical parts. Okay, but guarantee first of all different storage formats and all we'll see today, and different backups tomorrow we'll see. Mainly these backups I will explain all the type of backups. At least I will explain device used in backups. Other things we like http ftp nfs. We don't, if you don't get a time, ride I will show anyway. lvm I will try based on time limit. Okay, depends upon the time limit I will try. Otherwise, when I have a time, then or you can see old videos, or when I have a time I will do it. Okay, maybe now or later it is very useful. Even if you are working in working time also useful. We are preparing, this is not only for interview, for work purpose also. So that's the target. Okay, anytime it is very useful. Okay, so here we'll go with our first ppt, one ppt. So configuring local storage, I'm going this one. MBR GPT. Just guys read it. I will be back in now only. Actually, I want to put a leave today. Even today is a leave for me anyway. Saturday, Sunday, non-working days. um, Mugadi is holiday anyway. Next means Gudi Padava holiday. Next day also holiday for me. So this month I got lot of holidays, but I not able to use any holiday. No, things will happen. Now let it run. Okay, this is a MBR and GPT. MBR is a from old days to now still now we are using up to now we are using MBR type of disk. Next is a GPT type of disk. Okay, it is came with a GPT with a UEFI compatible kind of stuff. Okay, so I will explain once again this. So normally BIOS BIOS is a firmware, right? So BIOS is a firmware. Okay. Um, UEFI is also a firmware. So earlier days we use a firmware type is a BIOS. Later the new firmware type is came up with a UEFI. So guys, listen carefully. When you are connected a disk to a PC, if your hardware means your motherboard has a BIOS type of firmware, means BIOS chip is in a ROM chip. Your ROM chip is a BIOS chip. Okay, so if you have a BIOS chip and you connect a fresh hard disk and you start installing freshly, and you didn't tell what type of disk it is, you didn't tell what type of disk it is, automatically it is become MBR type of disk. Automatically it is MBR type of disk. If you are using a UEFI firmware, if you are using a UEFI firmware, okay, then means your BIOS chip type is UEFI type of chip it is. Okay, so you put a UEFI format and you connected a disk, you connected a disk and you try to install a operating system. By default it is become GPT. But here there is a one more important thing is there. Currently whatever the hardware is available, there are mixed formats, means it contains a BIOS related properties and UEFI because we don't know at what people will use the operating system type. So operating system compatibility is also required for MBR and GPTs. For example, if you take Windows 7 or Windows Vista, Windows XP, not compatible with UEFI firmware. It won't work. It don't like to work. It don't know what is the UEFI formats and all. But if you take Windows 8, 8.1, Windows 10 is compatible with the UEFI. So this is one part. What is it? Windows 8, 8.1 and Windows 10 later formats, and also in a Linux, Enterprise Linux 7, Enterprise Linux 6, Enterprise Linux 7, Enterprise Linux 8 also works with a UEFI. Okay, so if you are using this Enterprise Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, okay, Oracle Enterprise Linux, these are Enterprise Linux only. So when we say Enterprise Linux and then it is maybe above, okay, above 6 version level. Okay, so maybe 6, I think it is there also in a 6. I have to check it properly. So 6 guarantee 7 and 8 also is there. Above 6 version, it meaning 7 and 8 is guarantee is there. 6 6 is there, 6.2, 6.3, 6.5, 6.9, like that different versions also there. I've checked it, but I think it is there, but still there is a little bit confusion. But below 6, not there. 5 is guaranteed is not there. Okay, UEFI format. Okay, it is UEFI supported format. Okay, UEFI support the operating systems. Next, what is this MBR or GPT? What is this MBR and GPT formats? What it is, when you connect a disk, that it's a disk types. It's nothing but a disk types. When you initialize the disk, yeah, when you connect a disk, you have to initialize as a, you have to initialize the disk as a MBR type or a GPT type disk. So when you connect a new disk, you have to tell this is a MBR disk, this is a GPT disk. Like we have to tell it. So that is MBR type and GPT type of disk it is. If you initialize as a MBR, if you initialize as MBR, okay, so this is by default. I told here it is as default based on operating system installation. So this is default when we install fresh OS or Okay, fresh, install fresh. Okay, when we install OS, fresh installation, fresh installation. Okay, not already existing kind of stuff. When you install a, by default, okay, by default when you install a OS, if you are using BIOS as a chipset MBR, if you are using UEFI chipset, it is a GPT disk type. Okay, so if you are installing Windows 8, Windows 10, or a 2012, 2000, you can write all these things. 2012, 2008, R2 is also there, I think so. 2012, 2016, just for an example. If it is not in the list, does not mean it is not there, but you have to verify whether it is working or not. Okay, so EFI supported formats will be by this kind of operating systems. Next, so when you are connected disk, so what will happen? This is by default in a OS. Okay, so what I'm telling, okay, so when fresh disk means empty disk. Fresh disk means empty disk, nothing, no partition, nothing is there. So fresh empty disk, connect. When connect, automatically when you connect the disk, new disk, fresh disk to your system, when connected, so automatically to automatically ask initialize. I am getting this confusion part. Initialize. Okay, it is asked like this. Initialize the disk. My type earlier correct or not also. It is asked initialize the disk. I had done correctly. It will ask initialize the disk. So there it will give you an options. Initialize as MBR or GPT type of disk it is. Okay. When you connect a flash disk, if disk is already MBR type of disk or already GPT type of disk, then it won't ask you. It will connect directly. If it is fresh disk, no MBR, no GPT type, then it will ask you whether MBR or a GPT. So if you initialize as a MBR, you will get these kind of facilities. Okay. You can take for primary partitions. Remember these things. This is a very, very important thing. Very basic thing. That's a very important. Okay. For primary partitions. Um, what it is open also I don't know. A paintbrush only open. Okay. So think like this is a disk. Okay, guys. This think like this is a disk. So I make a partitioning like this. For example, this disk size is for example 500 GB. Think like a, it's a 500 GB, so disk space. This is a 100 GB. I take a for a C drive primary partition. Next, now I take another partition. This is a 50 GB. Oh wait, okay. So second partition size is okay 50 GB and D drive. So this is MBR type of disk. This is MBR disk. Okay, so this is a primary partition and this is also a primary partition, and I took another partition is E drive as a for example 50 GB. Again I'm taking EF drive. This is also a 50 GB, just for example. This is also primary and primary. Now for primary completed, and how much free space left are 100, 50, 50, 50. It means around 250 completed, right? So how much free space is there? Unallocated space. Unallocated space is around 250 unallocated is there. and we can't use this 250. You can't use this 250 free space. We can't use it for anything. You can't put a drive letter, you can't take any partitions because of 4 primary partitions completed. So what are the remaining space? We can't utilize this space. So because of it is MBR, because of it is MBR type of disk it is. So what is the solution? Can anybody? This is good. Okay, actually.
Utilize the full disk
Yes,
in four
very good.
partitions.
Correct. What we do, for example, up to 50, this is you done. And we, if you create a like this F drive, again 50 GB, okay, this space you can't utilize. So what to do? So better create a F drive, full F drive, like complete F drive. So remaining is 300 GB, better to put it. Or plan according to this one. For example, 500 GB. Give here it is around 200 GB. Okay, or maybe 100 GB enough if you feel like give it is 100 GB. Give 100 GB. Maybe if you 150 GB and 150 GB here, like according to planning it. But if in case 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, or maybe you need a more partitions than you require, like you need a more partitions. Okay, I need a C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive, G drive, like that. You need a more partitions in a single disk. So you need a more partitions. You cannot make a more partitions than a 4 primary partitions. In case this is 300 GB is a very big one. Okay, you don't want to put everything in 300. Now it is 300, 500, 1 terabyte is also wasted. And that too, if you see, I given 500 GB to my one of the drive H drive. So I'm creating virtual machines. Now it is occupied 50%. 500 GB only I given to virtual machines. It is occupied. Okay, my original operating system, original disk drive is a 500 GB, and I given virtual machines. That's for that one 1 terabyte added extra, and so this is happening. Okay, here it is. Okay, we'll go again back. So what I have done, instead of creating 4 primary, I creating 3 primaries only. Okay, I'm creating 3 primary, and I told this one, this partition is extended partition. Okay, what is this partition? It is a extended partition. Extended partition. So these are a primary partitions, partitions, 3 primary, 1 extended partition. I created a 1 extended partition. Inside this extended partition, I can create a number of logical partitions. Number of logical partitions. When people tell, so how many types of partitions are there? Primary partition, extended partition, logical partition. 3 type of partitions. What it is? One is primary partition, extended partition, and logical partitions are there. Okay, so actually there is a primary partitions. Okay, these are a primary partitions, and only one extended partition is there. Only one extended partition in the entire disk. Only one extended partition you can able to create it. For example, you created 2 primaries, still one extended only you can able. Now after 2 primaries you realize I want to create a extended partition from here. You can create only one extended only. If you create one primary, one extended only you can able to create. You know, when you install 98 operating system or 95 operating system, you know that time, so they use one single primary. That too we have to initialize, that is a active partition. Then remaining become extended by generally they are doing that one. Or they can keep for a dual booting system. If you want a dual booting system, then you have to keep 2 primaries and then remaining become extended partitions only. Manually they do partitioning earlier. First come First do the partition, install OS. Now everything is in installation time only coming. In
Sir,
primary,
under the
yeah,
sir, under the extended partition, we have the logical partition.
yes,
Or
right.
okay.
Yeah, I actually I didn't continue that point. I came to this point again. Very good. Right,
Okay.
correct. We have only one extended partition. Under that one, we can create multiple logical partitions. Okay, multiple logical partition. For example, this is E drive, F drive, G drive, H drive, I drive, J drive, K drive, like that we can able to create. By default, we can say based on the drive letters. Okay, so started with the C drive. AB reserved for floppy disk. If you want to use AB, also you can use it, no problem. But normally C to Z, 24 letters by default it is there, 24. Okay, available drive letters are available. So 24 partitions you can make it like this. Okay, so what I have done,
So
yeah,
I said okay, sir.
okay, good. Okay, so this is, so primary partitions, extended. In extended we have a, in extended we have a logical partitions. You can create based on your how much space, like you want 10 GB, 20 GB, 30 GB, like that. What how much space you want it, you can create a data in the space partition. You can create it. Understand? In MBR, what is MBR? Master boot record. You can create 4 primary partitions by default. Otherwise, you can create up to 3 primary partitions and one extended partition. In that and one extended, we can create a multiple logical partitions. This is a very basic thing. So compulsory you should know it. Okay. So what is this MBR part? So we'll see master boot record. Master boot record, we can create a 4 primary partitions, or we can create up to 3 primary and 1 extended partition. Next, in extended is not a partition, it's just it's a border. Make it like this is an extended one. In extended, okay, we can create multiple logical partitions. Okay, in extended we can create a multiple logical partitions. So this is first one. Second point of MBR is up to 2 terabytes of partition we can create it. Up to 2 terabyte partitions. Partition size is up to 2 terabyte. Okay, so this is a limit for a MBR. We'll go to see, here it is. Can partition a disk up to 2 terabyte. Still we it is there. Okay. What happened? First, second, to this one. Next, GPT. What is this GPT? GUID. GUID partition table. GUID partition table. 128 primary partitions you can able to create. 128 primary partitions we can able to make it. No extended, no logical. 128 straightforward. You can able to create it. Okay. Next, partition size. What are the partition size we create? So it's a more than 2 terabyte. Okay. In some textbook, it is telling it is up to 18 exabyte. So one second. Is it there anything? Here it is there. Exabyte. EXA byte. So that is symbolically tell EB. No, no, not RB. EB. 18 EB. Okay. 18 EB. So this is the difference between MBR and GPT. This is a very basic. We don't worry about what it is like that. But these basic things are very important at the time of interviews. So we put always try to put a UEFI, UEFI, UEFI. Why? Because while you are installing operating system by default, that is your GPT disk only, because we use 2019 and Windows 10 and Linux 7, so it is automatically become GPT type of disk only. Whatever your firmware, whatever the firmware you're using, okay, if you are operating support MBR GPT, it means when you add a new disk, when you are adding a new fresh disk or a new disk, whatever the name we are saying, new disk, fresh disk, empty disk, whatever the thing you said, guys, already I told 2 3 times, but again I'm telling, if a simple name way is changing, for example, I am teaching, I use only one or two words to explain something, like I use one name. Someone told in a different name, but concept is same. It is in a stand-up comedian type only. Life become like that now. Like a lecture become also like that. When I told something like someone told in different way, but joke is same, right? So same thing in interview questions, or maybe you are interacting with someone. If they use a different word, it does not mean it is a different thing. Sometimes it is also a same thing. Disk cleanup wizard, disk cleanup only. Some put a wizard, some put thing. It's a thing, or maybe it is a running, or maybe like different terminologies. Maybe change because of the person learning time wise, organization wise. Okay, like that. It will be there is a changes are there. So what I'm telling it is, if there is a change in the one person to another person perspective, so definitely, like, entire Maharashtra speaking same kind of Marathi language. Mumbai people speak in different way. Pune people different way. Nagpur people speak different way, right? So little bit difference is there, right? Same thing I'm telling. So if question is look like a little bit different kind of stuff, try to understand what exactly the question, what pointing it is. Try to give an answer. So I'm trying to give max to max all the type of all the variants in parts, but still, that time, I will tell our simple thing. It's happened so many times in interview also. We have a SOP kind of stuff, standard operating system procedure. So I told to the student that batch mainly I concentrate more because it's a large batch. More than 20 members are there, so more I push more in a one batch. That is SOP, standard operating system procedure, and there is a 6 steps. I told all the 6 steps. So, and SOP is used for troubleshooting related things, also called as troubleshooting model. So everybody studied SOP, and at the time of interview. So the guy asked interview question, what is SOP? He forget what is SOP. He told the steps. Some are remember what is SOP, standard operating procedure, and they forget the steps. That is also okay. And one girl got one question right. They asked what is troubleshooting model, because all the people from starting all the almost 10 15 people given um answer for SOP. They asked question what is the troubleshooting model. She said I don't know, and she came back. And she said, sir, he's asking troubleshooting model, we don't know what it is and all. So I said, I don't know. Troubleshooting model means SOP only. The model I taught you, that is nothing but a troubleshooting model only. So name changes, we don't give an answer. So let's bad remark. Don't get a bad remark. Select or not selected. That's one part. Okay, separate part. So I'm not talking about that one. I'm telling you about how much you can able to give at time of interview, how much you understand, how much you know, how much you can able to present from what with your knowledge, what you learn, what you can give. Try to give that one. So that is always be best to win that one. Okay, so I don't know, yeah, like, so try to understand what is the situation and completely out of your knowledge, then it's okay, no problem. Sometimes it will happens, we don't worry about. Okay, so this is MBR and GPT. Okay, okay. This is next one is basic disk, dynamic disk, volume disk. So I will go to this part. uh, it's what is this basic disk and dynamic disk? Basic disk or a normal disk, like you connect a disk, it is become a basic disk. By default, any disk is initialized for a basic storage purpose only. Okay, so mainly the basic disk can store operating system. So if you have a basic disk, then only we can install the operating system. Dynamic disk will to create a combination of disks. So understand one thing, right? This is a disk. I'm creating a partition. So this is a single disk. This is a single disk. I'm creating partitions in the disk, right? I'm creating a partitions in the disk. So what we call this part, logically we are dividing the disk, right? This is a single disk. For example, this is a disk 0. Disk 0. The disk name is disk 0. I am logically dividing this disk. So that is called a partition. What is a partition? Logically, we are dividing a single disk into smaller parts. That is called a partition. So write it here. What is a partition? What is a partition? Logical. Logically, we are dividing, right? Logically, divide this in divide a disk into small disk space, small parts. Logically we are dividing, we didn't take a knife or something to cut this disk, right? So logically we are dividing. If you want, you can combine the disk also. We can combine D drive, E drive, become a one single disk space also. We can do it like last time we Windows 10 we done that one, right? So that is called a partition. Okay, this is a basic disk. The basic disk is used to store operating system. Mainly, like you are connected a disk, that is by default it is a basic disk only, which we put for operating system, and of course for data. If you divide the basic disk into small parts, that we call it as a partition here. Okay, next, dynamic disk. So for a dynamic disk, so I have to go to a new one. So, okay. So dynamic disk, this is a disk and this is another disk. If when I want to combine these disks together, for example, this is a disk 0, disk 1, this is a disk 1, and this is a disk 2. So we have a RAID concept kind of stuff is there. So we'll go to that one. Okay. So if I want to combine the disk, means more than one disk, logically. We can't combine the disk physically, but we can combine the physical disk logically. In partition, what I said, if you have a physical disk, we can divide the disk, you can divide the disk logically. So this is called a basic disk and partitioning of a basic disk, right? We are dividing one disk into multiple partitions. We are dividing here one disk into multiple partitions. It's a single disk. Okay, so this is for example disk 0. Okay, so this is I divide into multiple partition. But here what we have done, I took a two physical disks and combined together, make a single volume. Make a single volume. Here we call it as a volume. Here we call it as a volume. Now everything we calling as a volume from Windows 7 onwards, almost Windows 7 onwards. Everything we call as a volume, new simple volume and all. But actually there earlier days we have a partition is there. So new simple volume. Okay, it is a volume. So what we done? We are combine a multiple physical disk into single large volume. Multiple physical disk into single large volume. So logically we are combining the disk. Logically we are combine the disk. To combine the disk logically. Logically when you combine the disk type must be dynamic disk. Disk type must be dynamic. So dynamic disk can able to combine together to create a volume. So be modified without restarting the Windows system. Provide several options for configuring volumes. When you want to create a volumes, like a combining a physical disk into multiple disks, so that the dynamic disk will work. Disk volume require include system volume for a hardware specified required something is given. Boot volume Windows system something is given. We don't worry about that one. So basic disk and dynamic disk. So when you do RAID concept kind of stuff, so definitely this is very useful. Okay, so this is it for now. Actually, if I